Jax, Tiffany Stratton, and Candice LeRae. Do we all want to say one nice thing about the match before we get into it?
Does anybody have anything nice to say?
I thought every lady looked very lovely and nice.
I bet you can't comment on their appearance, dude. You have to say something like about their personalities and stuff.
Yes.
It was nice of them to get it out of the way first.
Yeah.
There you go.
Io, you know what? I think Io looks like she gives very thoughtful birthday presents.
Yes.
Yeah, the nice thing that I could say about this match.
Rhea Ripley's Danzig mask was very colorful. I enjoyed it.
Yes, that was cool.
Mother.
What an absolute reminder that at any given point WWE can't scrape together 10 women that can put together a match like this. Stop doing it. Stop giving them these types of matches if this is the best that they can fucking do. Because this was
You don't like the trash can moonsault there?
Well, I mean, we've seen that. You can't do that for an hour and 15 minutes. Otherwise, it's just girls hitting each other in the butts with kendo sticks. And Nia Jax, holy cool boy. I've had some people whose opinions that I at least 80% respect say to me, look how much Nia Jax has gotten better. I'm like, oh yeah?
Well, she
Come
started
up tonight.
She started the contest with Big Pam and Nia Jax, but then leading off into Naomi, Candice LeRae, Bianca Belair, Tiffany Stratton, Sky, Kel Rodriguez, Rip Jax, but wants to open up the actual the fight. Then leading off into Naomi, Candice LeRae, Bianca Belair, Tiffany Stratton, Sky, Kel Rodriguez, Rhea Ripley, and to final it out, Liv Morgan. Andrew, what were some of your thoughts of this match going into it, bud?
Going into it?
Yeah.
I had no expectations, and as luck would have it, I wasn't disappointed. Kind of like, watch this War Games match every year, and, and it's like when they're dealing with the women, like, why can't they just do, normal type of matches? Not everything has to be hardcore and garbage cans and all that shit.
Yeah. And they also always try to, just piecemeal together actual issues between all of them, but because they don't run more than, 2 storylines for the women at any given point, you just have to pretend all this other shit. Do you remember when they used to be friends 3 years ago?
They mashed them all into this one match, both their storylines.
Yeah. Well, in 2019, they went to lunch.
Well, one of the things that we saw during Phil Marks' broadcast, make sure to check that on YouTube, by the way, had to get their spots in. There was watching woman-on-woman perform a spot, then those two leave, then the next two get in the middle of the ring, do a spot, then they get out of the ring, and then the next two come. And it was so formulaic that it was really embarrassing. Phil, what did you think about the flag wrestling that we saw in the women's War Games match tonight?
Yeah, and the run under the apron, get the weapon, sticks, the tables, the everything. I mean, yeah, like you said, it's formulaic. I don't know what more I can add to it. It just wasn't a compelling match in any way. And I kept saying it throughout the broadcast. Traditional Survivor Series, just eliminate everyone and then let Liv and Rhea have their moment at the end, one-on-one, because that's all that whole match built to. It was just, okay, we got to make sure every woman's so damaged so they can't get involved in the final little minute and a half of the match. And I just think they could have felt like it watered down the rest. At the end of the night, we were kind of grading it was it a C-, a B+, whatever. And I was like, maybe a B- or a B. And I don't think I would have said that if this match wasn't on the card or if it was just a traditional Survivor Series.
I thought you were giving this a B-. I'm like, Jesus Christ, rose-colored glasses.
No, fuck no. This brought the overall thing so far down. It was such a D- or D. It was it brought everything else down to where I don't know.
Joe, let me ask you.
I get it, though. They progressed the story a little bit with Rhea and Liv or whatever. They're milking the shit out of that. So,
Joe, let me ask you this. What do you think they could have done to fix this?
Eliminated 4 of the women that were in this match. Just not put them in there. I mean, you started the match out with the most out of shape, incompetent performer in the match.
Big Pam?
This was
Oh,
no,
no.
no, Big Pam.
Big Pam?
Big Pam was the workhorse, brother. No, you sent out fucking Nia Jax to do this. It's like, what? In what world did you think that this was gonna go well? To say, let's put Nia Jax in a match for 45 minutes. She was blown up by the time she got up the 3 steps.
Yeah.
It was not this was a fucking horrible decision. And Nia Jax, if anything, I mean, I just keep going back to her because I cannot believe this is still a thing. I just do not understand how this is still happening. You think you would have had her standing in the cage the whole time.
Right.
You would think that would be the thing. She's supposed to be the bitchy mean girl. So she's starting the match out like, I want to start off. It's like, no, you don't. You want to stand back there for the fucking love of God. Send out 2 and a half decent, half athletic girls to at least set the tone that maybe these women could do something instead of send out the fucking wheelbarrow and pleather pants to roll around on the ground. And, like, she's hitting people with shit. And she's like tapping the girls on the back with the chair. I'm like, Nia Jax has 2 speeds: complete garbage or break your neck.
Right.
There's nothing in between. Nothing looks one way or the other.
Andrew, let me ask you, Tiffany Stratton was a point of contention for some of us, thought that there might have been a chance she did anything. Did you expect Tiffany Stratton to make a move in this match at all, or were you kind of just expecting everything to kind of go the way it did?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't surprised how it was, especially if you're talking about the Money in the Bank thing. Like, I didn't see her come out with it, so I was like, she's probably not doing anything with it there.
Right.
So a little bit of a surprise to see it pop out of the trash can, but outside of that, it was kind of par for the course for her. Although it was kind of interesting seeing her do the move off the cage, which she's not accustomed to doing, crazy shit.
How about we just call this what it should have been, which was they should have gone with Rhea and Liv and just let it be a one-on-one women's fucking cage match and just let it go that way. Let them do the 2 rings, let Dom be on the outside. Just tell that story because no one gives a shit about all these other
That's what everyone wanted to see out of this match anyways.
They were trying to squeeze in a few different fights, though, because the Tiffany Stratton Nia Jax thing was still a contention. Having her in that match always kind of, even in the back of my mind, I was thinking that there might be a chance that Tiffy tries to cash in on one of these chicks in the middle of this fight, which would have been interesting. But when Liv finally came out, she brought up the baseball bat. She took her turns on Rhea Ripley, which was interesting. She got her mask removed. Rhea's mask got removed. But eventually, Rhea Ripley finished riptide on Morgan through the table. That's kind of how we finished the match.
Well, I mean, thank God Candice LeRae got her shine in this.
Yeah, there was not much for Candice. She was
big
just
stars like Candice.
Has anyone ever benefited from someone getting released more than Candice LeRae for Indy Hartwell's release?
Oh, my God, right? Ugh.
And Io got her big spot in doing the can.
Yeah, I'll tell you who Delta. Daria.
Oh,
do you know from NXT? She's a big Australian chick. No? Okay.
Delta. Oh, yes. Good God. Yeah, no, this was cock-a-doodle shit.
Yeah.
This was not good.
Bailey was on the back burner. Naomi was on the back burner. I think you're right, Joe. I think if they had 4 less people, this match could have been a little bit better. But we move on from there to, I think, one of my highlights of the night, which was LA Knight versus Shinsuke Nakamura. Andrew, what are your thoughts on the match?
I thought it was great. It wasn't anything super flashy. It was what we kind of expected and what you and I talked about last week with what they needed to do with Shinsuke.
Yeah.
Everything in there for the purpose of building the story. I thought it was done for the most part flawlessly. The match might have left a couple things to be desired.
Yeah.
But the overall story there, I enjoyed it.
Phil, how shocked were you that Nakamura came out as the new champion?
Yeah, I mean, I like both these guys. I don't know. I was kind of 50-50 on it. I was kind of fantasy mark booking for both dudes. It makes sense that LA Knight, he's just better as like the chaser, So we talked about it. Cody Rhodes and LA Knight both were like chasing, and then they both kind of captured their titles, and now it's like, okay, we need one of those guys chasing. I feel like so LA Knight can do that against Nakamura, and I like his whole reinvention. I like the Mist. I like the sort of villain, weird Street Fighter character, whatever you want to call it, and I'm down with him getting his flowers and like a reign with a belt again as well, because a lot of people would say, I don't know, in the internet wrestling community, if you will, they would say like he's washed or he's past his time. There was even rumors he might have been leaving WWE and all these sorts of things.
Do you think it was too soon
to see him getting?
Do you think it was like too soon, like for Shinsuke to have this first matchup against LA Knight and then to win it?
I just think that LA Knight is so over with people and his whole shtick that it doesn't matter that he lost it right now. I know it fucking sucks, but I think that him chasing Shinsuke to get it back is going to get over. Or it just is over because it's LA Knight. You know what I mean? Right. He walks into any place. It doesn't matter if he's winning or losing. And they're all chanting his stuff and going along with it. And yeah, every time he punches someone. So I just think... like it doesn't make sense, but it does in the long term. He's fine. He's fine. He can go after the world heavyweight title. Yeah, he can go after the U.S. title, the IC title. We don't know when like Netflix Raw comes to. Are they going to hard split the brands? We don't really know. But either way, he'll be okay. And him versus Shinsuke is more compelling because he just smoked him and took the belt. And this isn't like Shinsuke from a while back on Raw where he's talking shit and hitting people with GTSs, but he's still like the same Shinsuke, but he's saying all this sort of prophetic stuff. This is like he's evil, and I've been watching you, LA Knight, and it's more of that. It's an extension of that, but he's like evil, and he just smoked him with he does the spinning elbow now. I guess that's his new Chris Jericho type lethal move or whatever. I'm down. So I like where they're going with it, and I'm not like mad at it. Like, yes, I like the long title reigns, and I think LA Knight deserves a big push and all that. But that being said, the chase is always who's chasing right now. There's no one where like I hope that guy gets to that belt and gets it. Right. I don't think there's anyone like that right now. So let's make LA Knight that guy again because it doesn't hurt him. No loss has ever hurt LA Knight.
Joe, what do you think about
Nakamura? Dude, we know Nakamura's been booked really poorly. It's just.
Google Pixel 9 Pro. Does an elegant new design look as good as it feels? Or does it feel as good as it looks?
You know, Nakamura's been booked really poorly. It's just, my big hope for him was that he would say miso thali and then call people bitches. That was my hope.
Oh, yeah.
For him to be taken seriously yet again. No, I'm sorry. What were you going to say, Mitch?
No, I was going to ask you, what do you think about the evolution of Shinsuke? I don't think we really had a chance to talk about it in depth. I mean, I know we talked about the match coming up. Obviously, we did the pre-match stuff, the compilation.
Well, it's because Nakamura. Dude, this is one of those funny things. As far as we see a lot of people in wrestling now who think character work and creativity is ripping off a fucking PlayStation game,
right?
And Nakamura, in my opinion, and I'm not some great historian of his. I'm not sitting there saying I was watching him in Japan for years because I'm not full of shit. But from what we've seen of him and what we know of him, Nakamura actually is a creative guy that likes to come up with things, and he changes his appearance and has like big ideas, cool ideas. And he's somebody that, for all the people in wrestling that think they have a great idea, your Moxleys, right? Like, what's your idea? I don't lose and I kick everyone's ass. Wow, cool, dude. You have somebody here who, like I said on Thursday or maybe the week prior, you can heat him up, you can cool him down, but you can bring him back, and he's always a believable heel. He doesn't need to lean into constantly being a promo. He doesn't constantly need to lean into catchphrases. He doesn't constantly, but he's always a guy that when he shows up, he gets a reaction, and people either know he's a threat, or on a rare occasion they want to cheer for him either way because they just think he's a cool motherfucker, and they're right. So I don't know where they go with this, but they need to have some heel champions.
Let me ask this: Rob Cologne in the chat. Rob Cologne in the chat asks, what does LA
Hello, Moto.
I do now. Is he main event quality?
It's tough with the guys that they got in there right now. I mean, they have so many people. They were at such a deficit in this company at one point. We forget of main event talents that they were begging for fucking Jinder Mahal and Jack Swagger and just complete fucking goobers where they were like, oh, I guess we're just going to put them in there against AJ Styles. They just had nothing.
Right.
Now they have at least, a dozen guys that you could kind of plug and play in and out of there. I mean, just random dudes, people that have the belts, ones who don't. So it's very tough. LA Knight is a guy that his timing has always been poor. And right now he's in a tough spot because if half a dozen of these guys were hurt or not in this company, LA Knight would have been a dude who would have been a fucking top guy.
Well,
let me ask
this. Let me ask this though too to all you guys. WWE typically in the off season, the non-WrestleMania season, that's when they try new things. And at this point, this is where LA Knight held the title. Do you think that this is a reflection on LA Knight as far as WWE goes? Maybe not enough merch moved, maybe not enough ticket sales for LA Knight, that maybe they decided that maybe it's not a great idea to have LA Knight as the champion.
Well, if anything, I think too, like if you go back to like the old school days where like your Roddy Pipers and Jake Roberts were so over and got the fans and sold the merch that they didn't need a title. And obviously, Triple H is an old school type of guy. Maybe they're thinking of, does it really of benefit to have him with a title, whereas we could have put one of these guys that, might need some help using the title to bring them up because the people are going to be there for LA Knight. The sales, I don't know what the sales are like, but presumably I see a lot of people in the crowd with LA Knight t-shirts and stuff, so that stuff is there. So I think maybe even the opposite of what you're saying.
Okay, fair enough. What did you think there, Phil?
I agree. I don't know. I can't even add anything. I guess I'll just leave it at that. Well, I agree. It's just like, I'd be either way. I told you guys we were live on my channel, and I just said, look, I see it for either. Even when I was giving my predictions, I was like, I'm pulling a Dave Meltzer here, guys. Okay, I'm just giving you every outcome, and I'm happy either way. And it's not going to hurt LA Knight. That's all I can stress to everyone. It will not hurt LA Knight in any way, and Shinsuke will only legitimize him more because he can really fight. Okay, we know it's what Joe was saying. We know he can really fight. He's always a threat. And they presented him as a guy who could creep in and beat Seth Rollins and those guys before. They spent a year making him the guy, is he going to creep in and just win the world title or do this or that? And he never really did. But here he actually did it. He beat LA Knight. I don't think it's them shitting on LA Knight. I actually think it's them believing in LA Knight and being like, dude, we know it's not going to harm your merch sales or any of that. So that's my opinion, I guess.
Yeah, they need some bad guys too. Like I said, they need
just legit bad guys. They got none. He was fighting Carmelo Hayes. You guys want to keep watching that? Him and Andrade? Do you want to see something? Not to shit on anybody.
No, you're right.
You guys, it's him and Shinsuke. You know what I mean? Him and Shinsuke, that's amazing. We need one more guy in there that's looming as well. That could make it a triple threat, like we saw with the IC belt. Breaker, Sheamus, not to jump ahead. Breaker, Sheamus, Ludwig, right? We need one more guy kind of in that mix. Not to say Andrade or Carmelo couldn't.
I would put Santos in there.
Seen that play.
If you're talking about a third
Santos
man,
I'm sorry, dude. No one wants to see LA Knight wrestle Santos Escobar anymore, and. I'm not trying to shit on anyone, but bring the cruiserweight belt back, or that guy should be a fucking tag team with someone else. Not hating on him, but
no,
it's just a specific guy. If it's Shinsuke or LA Knight, they're so much bigger than him. I just feel like unless he can he can get over like Rey Mysterio. Then maybe that's an old school mindset. The little guy can't get over, but sometimes I just see Escobar in there, and it's like, all right. A bunch of dudes do lucha shit, and I get it, and he has a great look and everything, but I would put him in a lower mid, where he's at. Actually, I wouldn't put the strap on him. I wouldn't really make him a threat. He's just a guy to come in and sort of throw a wrench in the story or whatever.
Gotcha. Right.
That's how I picture him. Yeah.
Next match. Sorry, go on.
I want to win the title. so I can take it back to Charlotte.
Andrade's that dude already. I'm sorry. Like, okay, Andrade or Santos. I take Andrade. You know, if I'm going to watch either of those guys.
Phil, why do you hate me? I want to win the title and bring it home to Charlotte. Charlotte wants to see
Charlotte.
Charlotte wants me to have the belt in outer space.
Yes.
She wants me to have it. I put the belt on, and then I do a little show for her. It hangs below the belt, Phil. I hang low. Celoso. Don't you know I win the speed title 27 times?
Yes.
I am the champion.
Next match we have on the card, Braun Breaker versus Sheamus versus Ludwig Borga 2.0 for the IC Championship. Absolutely fantastic through and through. Going into this, I wasn't really sure. Once again, three-way matches are not one of Joe's favorites. And I think everybody was genuinely surprised as to how well this turned out. Some absolutely brutal moments. I fucking loved when Von Wilder baseball slides Braun Breaker mid-spear. While he was running mid-spear, it was great. Didn't expect it. The camera work was perfect on that because they weren't focused on Von Wilder. They were just focused on Braun Breaker getting shot in the side of the head. And then Braun Breaker with the flying clothesline to the table, hitting both Sheamus and Von Lederhosen. It was fantastic. Both those guys flowing through different points. The crowd was absolutely nuts for Braun. Braun is a bona fide superstar. Andrew Carlick, what did you see during this match, sir?
I saw the future. I'm totally with you there on the Braun Breaker part. Sheamus these last few years has absolutely brought it every chance we've seen him. And Ludwig Borga 2.0 there, as you say it.
Yes.
You know, it's been kind of like hit and miss with him a lot going up into them, but he's always kind of performed pretty well in the bigger matches. So all three of these guys absolutely brought it. They had a phenomenal match. Without going through my whole repertoire, maybe one of the matches of the year up to this point.
Wow.
And the way that they ended it, and also just asserted Braun's dominance on the division. I like everything about this match.
Yeah. I absolutely loved the use of the murder shillelagh, the murder stick. It was fantastic. Sheamus takes a murder stick like nobody else. I was saying it on Phil's podcast that every time that he was getting smacked with that stick, he would just immediately form a bruise. Like, Sheamus has the perfect skin for bruising because every single shot, like, blood squirted out of his arm and his shoulder. And I'm like, this is great. Sheamus is a human pincushion. Fantastic. And it looks great. Like, overall, there was such a dominance about the match going through all the men. Sheamus coming so close to winning the actual belt, but then once again, completely robbed of it. Joe, what were your thoughts watching this, man?
Well, this was, like I said, I typically, or at least you were talking about, I typically don't care for the three-way style of wrestling match. It's usually like gonna be the same half a dozen spots, and there was a handful of that, but you know, that's wrestling. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
But in a lot of ways, they did a great job here having Das Miz be the spoiler, which is what he was there to be,
Yes.
and to set up the whole story and, you know, the eventual feud or series of matches with him and Sheamus, which at this point, never thought I'd see the day where I would say Sheamus is going to be the elevator.
Wow.
But,
yeah.
I mean, he's becoming that guy. It's crazy. But this match in general was a testament to the fact of how you do a match and still tell a story when you're given a circumstance that is really difficult, like I said, to do something new and creative.
Yeah.
And they were able to pull it off. Pros. This is what happens when you have a match with pros in it.
Prost.
There's not a bunch
even.
of people.
Prost.
Yeah, well,
yes.
well, no, you know, I could make fun of his old fucking skinny, goofy hair there, German guy, but he played this really well. He looked comfortable. He didn't look green out there. He didn't look a mess. I mean, we mentioned earlier about Carmelo being, you know, this is going to be your heel guy. I don't know, man. I'm looking at this dude and I'm going, I'd rather trust him to be in a match like this than Carmelo, because Carmelo had that three-way match in Saudi Arabia, and they were doing the fucking jock jams flippy do shit, and the crowd couldn't have given a plate of piss. And these are people that see wrestling 4 times a year. So,
Phil, what'd you see, man? What'd you see with this match?
Match of the night, I would say. I think hopefully it progresses. Like on Raw, we see Gunther and Kaiser kind of getting into it, or I guess Kurt Wagner. We'll call him. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a clever one, guys. But Ludwig Kaiser, I love him, and he's gonna eventually be his own solo heel.
Wells Fargo has enabled small businesses to create or preserve more than 400
own solo heel off on his own, and I think this is another step in that direction. I like Sheamus being the Intercontinental title hunter guy. If you're the number 1 contender, I said it over on my show, if you're the number 1 contender or you have that IC belt, Sheamus is coming for you, lad. And also Breaker defending. I think he can't be hot potatoing the title around. He just sort of fumbled it, won it back. We can't have him like give it up and then get it back, or just give it up again quickly and then move on. So it's the right call. Everyone likes Breaker. Again, another sort of like tweener, no? Am I wrong about that?
People are going to turn him. I mean, there's no way around.
They already are. The fans are so adamant for Braun Breaker right now. I mean, even if they're trying to push him as a heel, the fans refuse it. So,
well, what stage do they flip him like full babyface then, or do they do that? They just let it naturally do its own thing.
I'm okay with him being the way he is. I hope they don't change nothing about him. Let him continue to be that walk the line guy, and let the fans decide, because people love him because of his uncle and his dad, and then at the same time, people love him because he's a winner. He goes out there, he's a solid wrestler, he's got solid promos. There really is, Andrew just said it a little while ago, the future. I really look at Braun Breaker, and that's like the guy.
And Ludwig's the future too, dude.
Yeah,
you can't overlook
it. I can see it, absolutely. But fantastic match, finishes decisively with Braun winning via spear to Sheamus. We move on to the next match on the card, and here we get to Gunther versus Damian Priest. You know what? The match was a lot more innovative and savage than I was expecting. There were points in it that even where I was talking about it with you guys, the selling and the psychology was amazing. There was lots of pain. Selling of the arm from Priest, the shaking comebacks, the back and forth beatings. And I said it even before, Gunther murdering Priest with the Kimura lock and kicking him in the head at the same time was absolutely fantastic. I love the visuals of that. It was fun to watch. Joe, what did you think, bud?
Well, this was, this is what we expect out of Gunther. And it was a little bit more from Priest. Priest really did show up tonight. And it's one of those matches where it could have gone horribly wrong. Let's be real, because the build up to this has not been good.
No.
I mean, they've gone out of their way, and everybody has complained about this. I haven't seen anybody put this over, to really kind of minimize Gunther and let Priest kind of, crash out on him a little bit. Just, you fucking blah, blah, blah. And Gunther just kind of stand there and take it. And it really wasn't the best way to go to head towards this thing. But all's well that ends well. If you want to call a really, really good match it ending well. But yeah, they told a hell of a fucking story here. Clearly, they're trying to move Priest in the direction of doing something with Finn Balor, which to me is kind of a fucking snooze. I feel like this is already played out, Finn and him.
Yes.
It's already kind of done, but they don't see it that way. I don't know. I'm just glad the belt stays on Gunther. I think Priest continues to build his resume as a babyface, which they should be doing. They should be continuing to build him up as a face. They shouldn't have just switched the belt over to him. Let him fight through a couple more of his ex-friends and do some shit. And then eventually, maybe post-WrestleMania, you do something. You give him a bigger push. You put a belt on him, you figure out from there. But right now is not the time. But this is the kind of match that makes sure that people know that Priest has got the potential to become something bigger than he is,
Phil, did you like the way that this played out? And what are your thoughts on Balor's interference? Are we feeling positive about him going forward with Priest some more, or is he just kind of a linchpin in this? Or a monkey wrench, I should say, sorry.
Yeah, yes, I think the feud is like Finn and JD versus, I don't know, maybe Bad Bunny. But one step in this has to be the tag titles, and I know I might be doing some fantasy Mark psychoanalyzing here, but it's like, I think WWE thinks this elevates the tag titles somehow, having Priest and Finn sort of drag on. You know what I mean? Like, why hasn't Finn dropped the tag belt yet? You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah,
Am I wrong about that? I don't know.
Finn's burnt out anyways. I think the majority of people, I mean, I know this guy has his fans, but then again, everybody has their fans. Baron Corbin had his fans. It's done. It's kind of run its course. Rhea's the star in this. Rhea's the big star out of that group. That's the reality of it. Dom is slightly underneath because Dom is such a fucking good heel and such a good character. And then Priest is just like a smidge right under them.
Yeah.
But JD and Finn, they're the, come on.
But more of the same, though. Well, like, and also to answer the question there, like, more of the same, right? Like, with the Judgment Day, we just see them run in and run in and run in. And it's sort of like the Bloodline. They run in, and we all say we're sick of it, but we all tune in to watch it. So, ultimately, it's more of the same of the Judgment Day. So, I'm not as mad as I'm sure some of the IWC might become because of the run-in and the interference. But I think the Dave Priest versus Finn story is... There's a story there, so it doesn't need a belt. And I'm not bigger than a belt like, let's say, a Punk versus Drew was necessarily, but it's a story that's, I don't know, right below the...
Yeah, it has to keep happening.
Right? It's like there's something there. Let's squeeze the juice out of it, whether it's like a tag match and then a singles, and then we put them in a cage on Raw or on main event, Saturday night main event. Hey, like they're doing a couple of them coming up, so something like that. But either way, the match was like pretty good. I liked seeing like Priest early in the match. He was doing like arm drags and all that sort of shit. He was trying to like
very innovative,
technically wrestle with him, right? I like that, but overall, it's the right call. You can't take the strap off Gunther. And hey, let me throw this out there. Let me ask Andrew. Both these guys tweeners or no? Right? Gunther, Priest, tweeners? No?
I think we're fooled with Gunther because he comes out and acts like a, for lack of a better term, class champion, but he still is a fairly vicious heel.
Yes.
But we're kind of fooled because he carries himself like a Ric Flair would have back in the day. So as far as like that tweener aspect, I think we're kind of, I'm not sure where they're with Gunther, but Damian Priest, I think so. But I think he's more on the baby side, especially after tonight, because
Google Pixel 9 Pro with Gemini. It can help you decide
but I think he's more on the baby side, especially after tonight, because one thing we've never really seen from Damian in the past is being able to tell a really good story in the ring. And with his injury, the way he sold it, you kind of saw that he is able to do that kind of thing.
Yes, I absolutely agree. I thought there was a lot of psychology in the match tonight, which you're right, Andrew. Damian Priest isn't really known for being that good on that end of things, but tonight he kind of stepped up his game. I think that there was something special there. But ultimately, I see Dan Goes to the Mayor, much love to him, our YouTube creator. He says, it's two guys that will ultimately do nothing for each other, referencing Finn Balor and Damian Priest. But what do you think was missing in tonight's match between Gunther and Damian Priest, Andrew?
Well, I think with this Finn Balor thing, like I'm gonna disagree with Phil a little bit. Like this doesn't need to keep going on with like tag teams and cages. Like they got a Saturday's main event in 2 weeks. Fucking build it up for 2 weeks and end it there. Let them both move on.
That would be it.
Because I think we're all pretty sick of this whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not even a shot on the Judgment Day. I was kind of happy that it didn't seem like Damian Priest was coming out there in his street trash gear. I think he's finally kind of moving away from that, and I hope he is, because I think that whole thing, the street trash with the Judgment Day now being the street trash, I hope that disappears, because that's bad enough on its own. But the Judgment Day, I think they need to finally find a new target. Damian Priest has kind of surpassed Finn Balor. He's surpassed all the guys in Judgment Day, and even though he's not the champion right now, I kind of see it again down the future. And I don't know when that'll be, but I almost feel like Judgment Day either needs to elevate themselves as a unit, or Damian Priest needs to take a back seat in order to let Judgment Day catch up to him. But
I compare him to like the first time that Punk won a title back, like 2007 or whenever it was. And like, it was to the point where he was perceived to be such a weak champion that they didn't let him be in like the 5-way match that he lost his title in. But obviously, like, he grew over time into being a very strong champion. That's what I think Damian Priest could do.
Main event, the new bloodline, or the floodline as Phil calls it, versus the Ozempic bloodline as we call it. The main event for the War Games match, Roman Reigns, Jimmy and Jay, Sami Zayn, CM Punk versus Solos, Sikoa, Jacob Fatu, Tama Tonga, Tonga Loa, and Bronson Reed with special guest appearance by Paul Heyman. First off, just going through the entrances, and I know we talked a little bit about it on Phil's show. I was really kind of surprised and happy that they gave Jay the main focus, the main spotlight to start off the event. Him coming out with the crowd. The crowd is absolutely insanely in love with Jay Uso. Everybody's part of Team Us, and we started off the match pretty much on fire. The actual order for the entry came in with Reed first, then Jimmy, then Fatu, then Sami Zayn, Loa, Punk, Sikoa, and then Reigns. Some interesting highlights with Punk and Roman Reigns, where Roman Reigns holds Punk back in order to let Sami go through. And then when Reigns was supposed to come out at the 6th spot, Punk just blew past him because Roman only knows one speed. Joey, what were your thoughts of this match going into it, and what were your thoughts going out?
Well, I mean, we knew that with the amount of people that were involved in this match that knew what they were doing, this was going to be good. And there was no way that this match was going to go poorly unless you let all of the green guys kind of take charge of it, which is why in God's green earth would that possibly have happened. No, this was every bit as good as it fucking should have been. Yeah. I mean, really, and that's not to minimize the quality of the match, but you see who was there, you see how it played out. The only concern that you should have if you're WWE right now is you really, really took those new bloodline guys and just completely pitched them out. I mean, this thing is dead now. It has to be dead. Like, what do you do? Do you just have them come back out on Friday and be like, none of that happened?
Right.
We all didn't get the shit kicked out of us. We all did not lose completely clean as a sheet. Because that would have been my only major gripe in this match, was there were very few parts where you really felt like these guys were in peril. Where it was like the Usos were really in deep shit.
I don't know, man. Bronson Reed climbing to the top of the cage. I thought we were going to get a murder right there. Until CM Punk did the save for Roman Reigns, which was beautiful.
Which that was great. That came off great.
Yeah.
But that's it. It's like this to me, this is the end of that story. Like that happens sometimes, where something happens in a match or something happens in a feud, and you go, "Well, that's it, right?" And then it's like, no.
Hi there. Would you like to receive a gift? I'm a missionary for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day.
And you go, well, that's it, right? And then it's like, no.
Just like that. Andrew, do you think that this could potentially be the end of the Floodline versus the old Bloodline?
I think there's a little bit more to this storyline. I think the real thing coming up is going to be, and I think that we all probably, if we didn't before tonight, probably will now, that Jacob Fatu is a star in the making. And it'll be him kind of breaking away from this group is the real story that I'm looking forward to.
Jacob versus Solo.
Yeah. I mean, that's gonna be something. Not main event caliber, but certainly something that will definitely be building him up. But as far as this storyline, there might be a little bit more legs on it, maybe through Royal Rumble at the absolute latest. But it feels like we're getting towards something with Roman and Punk and the rest of the group. Who knows what they're gonna do, if they're gonna kind of keep rolling together. But as far as the Solo group, I think we're going to start to see cracks in the group.
I also agree that where do you really go with the Floodline from here?
Right.
The faux Bloodline. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of like everyone grabs a weapon like a video game, throws it in, unless, like I said on my show, it's realistic. Like, okay, before I run in the cage, I run by the announce desk, I grab a chair.
Right.
Or I grab 2 chairs and then I run in with them, or I grab the steel stairs and I bring them in. And like, if there's a sneaky, clever way to get a table, you also asked me on my show too, do I like the roof or not? Like back in the day. Yeah, I'd prefer also for there to be a roof. And I know people got to jump off shit, but which I do also enjoy. The mark in me is like, yes, flip with a trash can. I love it. But at the same time, like it's not necessary. So the hardcore elements, they don't trigger me. And do I pop for them? Yes. But do they need to be there? I don't know. We saw the biggest pop in that Hell in a Cell with Punk and Drew was for a bag of beads. So we can tell
Right.
stories here. We don't need hardcore elements, but yeah, they're fun, you know.
The meant a little bit more in this match as opposed to the women's one, because
Blood
outside of Punk and Bronson Reed, the intensity of the story was there, and it kind of went along with that, as opposed to the women's match where, like we said, outside of a couple of things, there was really no real animosity between a lot of the combatants.
Right. Yeah. You know, and I mean, I do agree. I think that, you know, wherever they go with this, it's going to feel a little bit flat. Everybody in this match got their shots on Solo. Everybody got their shots. He just stood there, and he was a punching bag for the finish, and it made perfect sense. It's a great way to end a feud, and we're talking about a feud that's been going on for over a year. So it's like, it feels to me that anywhere they go with this, what are they going to do? They're going to have Roman chase down the red chili pepper necklace? Is that the next thing? Because that's really all that's left. And so I don't know how. Right. And so I don't know. I thought, honestly, that the Floodline was going to win this because they had to continue it. I did not expect in a million years that it was going to end the way it did. Gentlemen, your favorite match, your least favorite match, and your overall grade. Phil, what were your thoughts?
Triple threat or the main event was the best. Sorry to Dave Meltzer, you know, except actually. And then the least was the first match. Like, that was the lowest. That was the worst match. So how did you word it? That we had to eat our broccoli first or whatever, right?
Hello, Moto.
They gave us our Brussels sprouts first.
Everybody's eating the Brussels sprouts, and then they get the real shit. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's okay with me, I guess, in the grand scheme of things. Then I just want to say the favor. Okay? That's what we will see in the coming weeks or week, I guess. Raw, SmackDown, we're going to tune in to figure out, like, what is this favor with Paul Heyman? We saw the embrace at the end, all the tricks at the end, the posing, everyone's united and everyone's hugging Paul Heyman, and he's the guy who's masterminding this all, etc. And there's some sort of favor in place, but Roman and Punk see eye to eye. But how long will they see eye to eye? Because does that favor entail a match against Roman, or does it entail fucking, he manages Punk until he gets the title, or who knows? I have no idea, but I'm intrigued, and that's the key element in all of this. We leave The Rock. A lot of people speculated, right? Hey, is the Rock going to show up tonight?
Yes.
He could have. He didn't need to, though. He didn't need to, and that was the key thing, right? It's all about that favor, and I think once that favor came into play, very last minute, Friday Night SmackDown, which was taped as well, I guess. So it was an idea for a minute, but no, that favor, once that came into play, I guess, to me, that's when it became obvious, they need to win because Punk has a favor now with Roman, and that's the next beat to this story, which does suck for the Floodline, Where do they go? I agree. Maybe we see Jacob and Solo versus the Tongans. Maybe we see Jacob versus Solo. Maybe they just keep talking shit, and they're like, yeah, but the Ula Fala, you gotta come get the Ula Fala. So who knows? I'm intrigued, though, and that's the key thing. Was it the greatest War Games match of all times? No. Was this the greatest event ever? No. But I'm also not shitting on it at all. I had a great time. A lot of great matches. Triple threat banged.
What was your overall grade?
I mean, I said like a B- or a B or a B.
Okay.
And then George said to me, he goes, I rated it a C+. And I go, well, I say B-. And he goes, well, what's the fucking difference?
Just that smidge.
Yeah, you're right.
Just that, look, favorite and least favorite match and overall grade, buddy.
It's time, your time, not just to go back to school, but to come back and
Overall grade, buddy.
Very, very much like Phil, the worst, easily the women's War Games. I think everyone, all of you, and probably everyone listening will probably agree with that. And for the best match, I'm going to say the Intercontinental match, but kind of just barely over the War Games match because both of them had strong stories.
Yeah.
But the match itself for the Intercontinental match was a tad better, I thought. Grade, I'm going to give it a B+, and I give it a little extra step because it was over before 10:30.
There you go. Joey, favorite, least favorite, overall grade, bud.
Imagine if I was just like the women's match was the best.
Yeah, of course.
Actually, the ladies killed it. No, I mean, that was obviously, there's only 5 fucking matches, so that makes it a little bit easier to go down the list and say, that is not killing it compared to the other ones. I'm going to actually pick the main event as the best match just because of the fact that there was actually so much going into this and there was so much fucking story to tell. And I just see this as what they need to be doing to continue to have momentum to WrestleMania, as opposed to we go, oh, well, all these pay-per-views up until, Rumble, who gives a shit? It's like, well, you really should give a shit because that's what's going to get people excited for Mania as it rolls along. Because we're so at this point, how many people expect it to be pretty much crap? The show to be bordering on unwatchable, at least from September until November.
Right.
Sometimes it's from May till July, and then sometimes it's from May to November. It sucks. So for them to actually put together good matches, good stories that are worth watching, with people that are interesting and stars that are believable, and then a bunch of chicks trying. This was a very, very good show, especially coming off of the atrocious Saudi Arabian thing that they put on. I don't even want to call that a show. That thing sucked ass.
Yeah.
And then, of course, coming off of the AEW Torture Chamber waterboard you with pro wrestling extravaganza. I'm going to give this a B+ because of that.
Wow, 3 B+.
Just because of,
my goodness.
well, just because of what my God, this is, you expected this to be good. But overall, like I said, with the exception of girls hitting each other in the bum with sticks, everybody on the show looks like a pro. Everything came off really well. There was nobody that I was rolling my eyes at. There was nobody that I was sitting there going, oh, come on. Why? Dude, this person's green. This person sucks. This person. No. This was a very, very.
chair shots. Chair shots. How'd you feel about those?
Well, that's it. And by the way, I'm also giving it a little boost because there was no Seth. So no Seth brings it up to a B+.
Yes, there you go.
So as far as I'm
I
concerned,
forgot about that. I might make A-.
Yeah, see, I'm telling you. Seth didn't just come out and go, me as well. Don't forget I exist. I got a glom onto everything.
I'm right in the boat with you guys. Least favorite match, easily the women's match. Did not perform on the level that we were expecting. Io did get her trash can spot in there, but for the most part, felt very formulaic, felt very bland. And even the story that they're trying to tell with Liv and Rhea Ripley, as fun as it was to watch Liv beat the shit out of Ripley with a baseball bat, it still kind of felt like that's what the match should have been all along. It should have been Liv versus Rhea Ripley. And Tiffany didn't do anything. And I was really hoping that there was going to be some kind of swerve in order to give us a reason for these women to have a War Games match. And I thought if Tiffany Stratton tried to cash in that Money in the Bank in the middle of a War Games match, how interesting that could have been, especially because it would have turned her face. She had two different heels to choose from. She could have went after Nia Jax, or she could completely flip the script and went after Liv. But she did nothing. And once again, she stagnates, and she's probably one of the most impressive girls to have come up from, NXT to the main roster in quite a while with a lot of fanfare. And I don't know why they're letting her cool off. But yeah, no, absolutely the least favorite match on the card. Arguably, though, there was 3 matches that were very memorable. I'm going to have to go with the IC match. I think that triple threat was very impressive in so many ways. It was very violent, it was very chaotic, and it made sense. And it didn't feel like it was very formulaic, innovative in a lot of ways. There were just moves. And honestly, it brought Van Wilder up to a whole new level. I fucking love Kaiser. I think he does a great job out there. German Conan O'Brien for the future. But yeah, the storyline-wise, for what it was, enjoying the hell out of it. Want to see more with all 3 of these guys in the future. I hope they have another triple threat. That's how good this was. Not to take anything away from the main event, and not to take anything away from Gunther and Priest either. I think both of those matches were absolutely fantastic. The main event wasn't my favorite, only because it was such a decisive finish on a Survivor Series that it makes me wonder, what are they going to do with these guys by the time we get to WrestleMania? It's not a good feeling. If anything, it leaves them very empty, very alone, and with little to no credibility. But overall,
What
great.
a sign of the times, by the way. I'm sorry, what a sign of the times that there were 2 solid matches on the show that none of us mentioned as best. And back in the day, a solid match would easily have been the best match on the show.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We've gotten to the point where we can flip the script where it's the bad match that we focus on now, which is great. That's absolutely I want more of this. And Joe, you brought it up It's absolutely refreshing after the shit that Crown Jewel and Full Gear were. Absolutely happy for this event. I'm going to be the guy to fucking pull the trigger. I'm giving it a flat A. I think it was damn near perfect. It wasn't A+ worthy. The women's match, for as spotty and as difficult as it was to get through, the problems with the women's match was what they didn't do, not what they did do. So that's my feels on it. Guys, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much at home for listening.